Welcome to the third video for week 6 of HEA 10002. Firstly, a series of questions. How much time each day do you spend collecting water? After you carry that water home, how do you treat it? And how are you sure that water is safe to drink? If you are a person assigned female at birth, how do you assess your safety before defecating in an open area? If you're like me, these are questions we never really consider. But for many people around the world, these are questions asked on a daily basis. So firstly, what is sanitation? Sanitation refers to the treatment and proper disposal of sewage and wastewater and the safe disposal of human urine and feces. Why is it so important? Well, let's hear from Barbara Evans, Professor of Public Health Engineering at the University of Leeds, to gain an initial overview.
We have huge numbers of people, billions of people in the world who don't have adequate water and sanitation services. About 1 billion people who have no toilet. We're really looking for solutions which work technically, but can be embedded in a political process that is robust and also financially sustainable in the city. These are very complex problems. They're almost insolvable problems, and that's because it's more than a technical problem. It's a technical problem, it's an institutional problem, it's a political problem. The bottom line is that sanitation is not a cheap business. We can extract a lot of value from sanitation products, but historically in this country, in America, all over Europe, really there's no country which has transformed from a state of having very limited sanitation to having full sanitation coverage without pretty big investment. But we also know that economically the benefits are huge. If you can get all of that fecal contamination out of the environment, you can reduce the incidence of diarrheal disease, you can reduce the incidence of helminthic worm infections, which has a massive impact on productivity, on the ability of children in school to learn, nutritional status, stunting. It's the impacts are massive. So if you can persuade governments to make those kind of big but not massive by public funding terms investments in ongoing support to sort of managing sanitation, you get a huge gain. Typically, you invest $1 in sanitation, you get about a $9 public benefit back.
What was evident from that video? Well, firstly, sanitation plays an important role as a determinant of health. It's integral to a plethora of diseases, most notably diarrhea, but it's also linked laterally to other determinants of health, such as education. School attendance was also mentioned in that video. Something you might not know is that sanitation is indeed recognised as a human right. Yet billions of people in the world do not have adequate sanitation. Why are we not meeting the target of containing fecal contamination? It's not a cheap business, but as indicated in the video, and values differ here, the financial gain is significant, something in the range of a 5 to 10-fold gain to health. There is a huge number of deaths each year that relate to inadequate sanitation. The value that appears in your lecture slides is close to around 900,000. These deaths directly relate to environmental determinants, in this case, inadequate sanitation, and are preventable. Specifically, better water, sanitation, and hygiene could prevent close to 400,000 deaths of children under the age of 5 each year. Open defecation is one particular feature of countries that have poor sanitation, and it perpetuates a vicious cycle of disease and poverty. Countries that have the highest incidence of open defecation also have the highest deaths in children under 5 years of age, the highest levels of malnutrition, and poverty and large disparities of wealth. Why improve sanitation? And, well, hopefully based on the information presented so far, you could already identify some of these reasons. Importantly, it would reduce risk of disease and death. It would reduce the impact of malnutrition. It would enhance the subjective sense of safety of people assigned female at birth. We know that young women and girls have a higher incidence of assault when openly defecating. It would improve school attendance, especially when separate sanitation facilities are provided for different genders. And it would promote dignity. There is much to gain, but as with all health inequities, it is complex and political. Some strategies for how to implement change are listed on the screen and in your lecture slides. I'd like you to spend some time thinking about how these dot points relate or map onto the concept of the health river that we examined last week. This concludes our very brief but important discussion of sanitation as an environmental determinant of health.